And welcome to the City Council public comment meeting. Before Mayor Pro Tem Bivens calls the meeting to order, we ask that you please silence all electronic devices. For those of you who have requested to speak, there are two podiums in the chamber. The podium in the back is for individuals with mobility concerns. We ask all others to step forward to the front podium. Each podium has a countdown clock located to the speaker's right that will indicate how much time is remaining. When you have 30 seconds left, a bell will sound. When your time has ended, the bell will sound again, and you should complete your comments. Before you begin your comments, please state your name, and thank you.
And with that, I should say thank you, Jeanette. The meeting for the City Council public comment section is now called to order officially. I would ask that we all stand for the invocation presented by Pastor Michael Moore of the New Bethel Complete in Christ Church.
Thank you, Mayor Bivens, to the City Council members, citizens. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father, we are grateful and thankful for this day, and we thank you for the opportunity to gather together in your name. We thank you this day for the presence of our representatives. We thank you for the presence of the citizens of this city. Now, Father, as we present ourselves before you, we ask that you will remove any pride or selfishness or even carelessness, and then fill us with your grace. Give us grace to rule with wisdom. Give us grace, give our leaders grace, God, to lead us with programs and projects and all of the plans that are set before them. And then God, give us a heart for every citizen in this city, from the least to the greatest, from those who have much and those who have little. Let us all receive the same justice in this place. We pray that you will fill our hearts with love, that we will learn how to set our differences aside and fill our hearts with love, that we can love one another in spite of our differences, in spite of what side of opinions we may have. We ask it all in the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now our action item, calling for the consideration of the minutes from the January 9th work session, the January 9th special call meeting, I'm going to do them all at once, the January 9th public comment meeting, and finally the January 23rd council meeting. Now I'll entertain a motion. All in favor? Any opposed? I don't know how to work, oh, there it is, okay. So just push your little buttons. And with that, those minutes are approved. We've now entered the public comment section, and I will ask for the city secretary to read the names of our speakers.
Our first speaker will be Bob Willoughby.
I was hoping Maddie'd be here, but see how we got you, I'll just change the whole speech up.
Welcome, Mr. Willoughby.
You're welcome. Let's put this up there, okay? Let's see you turn around so you can blow it up. We just started a new neighborhood association called Drawing Heights Neighborhood Association. That's what we got started today. It's official. And it was done with no help from community engagement. That's all right, because you kind of make it out. The John T. White Neighborhood Association has gone so far to intimidate the people that were on my petition. There was going to be a bigger lines drawn. 3 backed out because they were threatened that they couldn't get stuff done by the city if they were in the Drawing Heights, because Gina Bivens owns the John T. White Neighborhood Association. That's her neighborhood association. even though she don't live in John T. White. Now, some years ago, which John T. White never said, I hadn't thought of a thing on their own anyway, but here's something. This sign, if you can make it out, these blue signs they had the Fort Worth cow head on there, whatever. I mentioned this on Nextdoor some years ago. I said, you know, we ought to use these all around the city to notify people when there's bond meetings, budget meetings, redistrictizing, educate the people when there's voting. It's not on the website, but anyway, these would be great for that. I put that out there. As soon as I did that, John T. White, well, they got their sign up. You can't read it, but it says John T. White Neighborhood Association on the top picture of the red one. That's what it said. So I had to look at that for a couple of years, knowing that was my ideal. Well, we got the Drawing Heights going, and here's that few years, you know, when we got that going, I got a sign underneath it for the Drawing Heights Neighborhood Association. They couldn't stand that. They couldn't stand it. They had a fit. And that's what Mr. Cook I met with has not answered about. I asked him to get this crooked neighborhood association off the bank, but he won't do it. He protects them. So, anyway, I put that sign, it ain't 7 days up. They take down the whole thing. You see, they move it all. Theirs and mine. Is that the way a neighborhood association is supposed to act? They moved the whole, and the city didn't call me about my sign. I lost them. Now, I'm telling you, that's shameful. And Gina Bibbins knows it's shameful, but she supports it, and they support her because, you know what? There's a lot of developing going on in John T. White, a lot of area for these big, rich developers, and the price of these houses is outrageous, and there's a lot of money there. So the corruption is just flowing there. But nevertheless, we got a little island started with the Drawing Heights Neighborhood Association, and I'm pleased with that. We'll start there, and that's good. They wouldn't play my video about Mr. Crane. He's always joking about our rights being taken away. Anyway, that's what I had a video for. And if you go to fwdistrict5.com, you go to Facebook, you go to, it passed the rights for you too, it's on there. The video's everywhere. And you can see him. He's a joke. He won't defend himself. He calls himself leadership, but he will not defend himself. He will not come out and speak. He only attacks from up there where he's protected. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Good to see you. Call the next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Lawrence Walker. Is he in the chamber? We haven't been able to reach him. We will keep trying.
Okay. Next speaker.
And next speaker is Stephen Roebuck, who will be followed by Jonah Murray.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Stephen Roebuck. I live at 4312 King Richard Lane in Fort Worth. I'm the president of the Candle Ridge Homeowner Association. And the reason I'm here tonight is I wanted to speak about this recent murder of a firewood delivery man in our neighborhood, about 4 blocks from where I live, by a resident of a short-term rental property, renting room by room by room. Now, caused me to start looking into it. Had a lot of calls from my neighborhood, and a lot of people reached out to me and caused me to start researching it, finding out what can we do to stop these. And I know that you passed an ordinance to prohibit those in single-family zoning, and I appreciate that. That was a good move you made. But the thing I've noticed during my investigation is the fines for these operators are so light that they're ignoring, they're paying it, and they just keep on going. These houses can generate $7,000 to $9,000 a month. Your fines are in the neighborhood of $500, first offense. Code doesn't set the fine, the municipal judge does across the street. And they can go from $500 to $1,000. Now, when you're bringing in $7,000 or $8,000 or $9,000 per month on a rent house, a $500 fine is a bump in the road to them. They're gonna keep on going. I'm asking you tonight to look at the fine structure and consider rehabilitating that or revising that, because I believe to put a stop to these, that's what we're gonna have to do, is raise the fines to where they will not keep operating. If you look on the web, there's over 200 of these houses in the Fort Worth in single-family zoned areas still operating. Code enforcement doesn't have enough officers. The pay for the officers is so low, they have a huge turnover, and they need more tools. They need somebody manning the computers, researching where these things are, and more officers out citing them. And that's why I'm here, not here to tear anybody down. Code enforcement is my friend. They help me on a lot of issues, and they're great people. And I'm just here to support them and bring them more, ask you to bring them more tools. Officers, more pay, somebody on the computers, and higher fines. And that is what I'm asking for. We could come together, work something out, beef this thing up, and let's get rid of these things before somebody kills a child. It's disturbing to have somebody die 3 blocks from you.
Thank
from
you,
this
Mr.
situation.
Roebuck. We certainly will. Call the next speaker, please.
Jonah Murray?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
typically I don't do this, and Steve typically doesn't come to public comment. And I share his same concerns, and I would like for our city management team to add this to our future agenda items for work session. I didn't put it on earlier, but he brings up a very valid concern. I think it would be appropriate for us to have an update on what work is still left to do after that ordinance that we passed recently.
And Councilmember Williams, I encourage you to put that in written format while you're there. Thank you.
Definitely will.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Go ahead, Mr.
Good evening. How's it going?
Good evening. My name is Jonah Murray. I'm a resident of District 9 in 76104, and I am speaking on behalf of myself as a private citizen. Each year, the Human Rights Campaign scores cities on their Municipal Equality Index, which measures cities' inclusion of LGBTQ+ residents. Fort Worth's score for 2023 is our 8th consecutive 100, a perfect score. In the employment practices and leadership categories, Fort Worth lost points for the following items: transgender inclusive healthcare benefits, 0 out of 6. Inclusive workplace, 0 out of 2. Leadership's pro-equality legislative or policy efforts, 2 out of 3. There are many bonus point categories on the index where cities can make up for lost points. Fort Worth was able to do that, but here are some bonus point items that we missed. Single occupancy all gender facilities, 0 out of 2. Protects youth from conversion therapy, 0 out of 2. Provides services to LGBTQ+ youth, 0 out of 2. Provides services to LGBTQ+ people experiencing homelessness, 0 out of 2. Provides services to LGBTQ+ older adults, 1 out of 2. Provides services to the transgender community, 0 out of 2. Openly LGBTQ+ elected or appointed leaders, 0 out of 2. I believe the index is a useful tool, yet imperfect due to the scoring system, and I realize that the city doesn't control how the scoring works. I also realize that there are limitations to what cities can do under restrictive state legislation. However, while you don't control the scoring, you do control the narrative. It is irresponsible for the city to tout its perfect score without being transparent about what we're lacking and making active efforts to improve. It's also incredibly disrespectful to the community members the city is not serving or protecting. You cannot claim to be a truly inclusive and supportive city when you treat people like points. I am transgender, and I'm not a bonus point. Transgender people are active and important members of this community, and we should be treated as such. Our lives, our well-being, our access to resources should not be treated like an afterthought or something to be overlooked. Queer residents and employees of the city of Fort Worth deserve the best that our elected officials, city staff, and board and commission members have to offer. I'm committed to doing what I can to improve our city. I implore the active participation of the mayor and council to improve city policies and practices, and I ask my fellow LGBTQ+ community members to let their voices be heard. We can best create change by working together. Thank you.
Jonah, do me a favor, send me that report and I'll get it to the assistant city manager and we'll take it from there.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell Willis I said hi. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Alonzo Aguilar.
Alonzo Aguilar.
He's yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Aguilar.
Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff, good evening. My name is Alonzo J. Aguilar, and I am a past president of Worth Heights Neighborhood Association, Neighbors Working Together, Neighborhood Associations, and the president of Neighbors Working Together, president of an association that is president of the 5 or 6 neighborhoods on the south side. I came here tonight because of the crime district tax situation. I don't know how many of you have been here during the time of that election, but I read the paperwork, which I have here, on the change that was made by our last Mayor Moncrief and the council members that were with him. They took and changed the wording of that tax committee. Now the city council is using the money from what the city manager told me for the district cost of operating the city. I don't know anything that's in the paperwork that stated that the city could do that. The crime tax money is exactly what it was said it was for, operating to reduce the crime in Fort Worth. And that was the only thing that money was supposed to be used for. I don't know how many of you members were here when the election took place and why and how it came about that the tax was created. The city agreed to appoint 7 members of their district, 1 member each of their district, to control the spending of that money. Not the city council, not the mayor. They were supposed to go to the board and ask for whatever it is they wanted. But someone came to Fort Worth and convinced the council to remove the board, which it had no authority to do so. I don't know who runs the city. I don't know who watches the law or takes care of what's going on. But that was in the paperwork. The city had no control of the money and could not spend it.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Time is up, but I promise you, we'll have someone from the police department, probably Chief Noakes, get with you and go over the changes. It has evolved. Thank you so much for coming. Call the next speaker, please.
The next speaker will be George Childs, followed by David Martinez.
Chief Noakes, we'll make sure you get his contact, okay?
My name is George Vernon Childs. I live in Fort Worth. What follows will be in the form of questions. Does the mayor hold a law degree? Did the mayor swear an oath to defend and support the United States Constitution? If so, does the mayor feel that this oath created a duty on her part to ensure equality in this room through uniform enforcement of all rules for speakers? If so, did the mayor ignore any of those when the subjects were increased compensation to her, involved Hillwood Corporation, or Bob Willoughby going off topic in order to praise a police officer? Assuming arguendo that any of these is true, while it was taking place, if anyone in the audience had said point of order at the volume usual when a council member says it, would the mayor consider this disruptive and act accordingly? Does the mayor have any information or opinion as to why on October 18th, 2022, the mayor pro tem did not announce that a council member necessary for quorum was going to leave and instead waited until that council member was out of camera range to state loss of quorum and never, while council was in session, give any reason for this departure. Has the Mayor Pro Tem ever stated a reason for this departure to the mayor? Has the Mayor Pro Tem ever stated to the mayor how she became aware that quorum had been lost? On June 28, 2022, the District 9 council member told the speaker to keep a subject, quote, out of your mouth, unquote, and that his words would, quote, fall on deaf ears, unquote. The Mayor Pro Tem stated, quote, he knows nothing, unquote, and characterized the subject as sisterly. Does the mayor agree with this conduct? When the mayor stated that children had had the, quote, you know what, unquote, scared out of them, did she mean that they had involuntarily urinated and or defecated, or mean that as a figure of speech? Did the mayor mean for the public to consider a speaker's reference to cutting off the head of the snake as a figure of speech or as a literal physical threat to her? Will the mayor tell the public what the basis is for her statement that she met with the person who mentioned the head of the snake in spite of his saying that, when in fact the meeting came first? Is the mayor aware of City of Denton internal staff report to Denton Mayor number 2022-17 and the case law cited therein?
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is David Martinez.
Good evening, council. First of all, I'd like to say my name is David Martinez. I am in Carter Park neighborhood, and I'm here to speak on the Seminary Corridor project. But first, I'd like to say my name is my people are from here. I'm indigenous to America. I'm Apache Chiricahua, and I'm also indigenous to Israel. Israel, hi. There will be no ceasefire until the hostages are returned. And I'd like to say also, my prayers and thoughts are to the firemen that were injured last night, and prayers to them as they continue their job every day and risk their lives for us. Okay, I'm here to talk about the Seminary Corridor project. One of the things I want to bring up is a lot of people bring up gentrification, but one of the main things I want to talk about is I want to point out child development begins with economic development. We cannot have better schools unless we pay for them. A lot of people expect them to come out either our property taxes or high-density apartments being built, or they bring up heavy industrial zoning in the neighborhoods. And I know a lot of neighborhood associations do not like that. All the meetings I've ever been to, not one person has said, I want that in my neighborhood, in my backyard. But I have a solution. One of the solutions I have is gambling. I believe that if we bring gambling to Texas, we will be able to make money and profits, and we can avoid high-density apartments and the other things that other neighborhood associations don't want and fighting the zoning for. By bringing that, by shutting down the motels on Seminary and I-35, such as the Days Inn Motel, and other ones that are causing problems with the ones that we had in Carter Park. We had, human trafficking, lots of terrible things happening over there. But thanks to the Fort Worth Police Department and Councilwoman Martinez and Councilman Nettles and other council people that helped out, and the mayor and the Fort Worth PD, we appreciate everything they did to help Carter Park change drastically. Last summer in August, there would be like 30, 40 people out there in the streets. Prostitution, everything was rampant. But what I want to do before my time is cut off, I'd like to tell everybody, if you want to have development in Carter Park, come talk to me, because we need hotels, we need businesses, and we have plenty of land and area that's vacant and ready to be developed. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Call the next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Martasha James.
Good evening.
I wanted to talk about the zoning, but more so about the infrastructure, but I'm here on behalf of the Echo Heights Stop Six Environmental Coalition. We have a lot of potholes. We have a lot of messed up streets or half-paved streets that's not in neighborhoods. Do I click it or are you guys clicking it? Okay, you can click the next one. These are potholes that are being created or have been created by the trucking companies that are within our neighborhoods. And we have come to city council countless times before to address the issue about the commercial companies that are in our area. You can go to the next one. And these are just a few images of the damages that are being done to our streets in our community. And just to add insult to injury, the firefighter truck that was flipped over earlier this morning, had we had lights, had we had better, signaling on the streets, we wouldn't have that issue. I would say we wouldn't have run into that issue. Can you go to the next slide? There have been countless amounts of information that has been sent through the apps from people in the community that have stated that they sent through the apps, emails that have been sent, petitions that have been sent, pictures that have been presented to city council before. And you go to the next slide. And trucks that are coming through the area in which we have signs that's signaling to not allow these trucks to come through our neighborhoods. I don't know if you could able to see it, but this is an Old Dominion truck coming on Martin Street from the intersection of Martin and Miller, which has a sign that states that there isn't supposed to be any trucks, 18-wheelers coming through that area, well, down that street. And as you can see, we already have poor lighting going down the streets altogether. Can you go to the next slide, please? And these are just more images emphasizing on the issues that we're experiencing within our neighborhoods and the changes that we're asking for you guys to make. You go to the next slide? These are just more images as well. Up and down Martin, coming down Martin, and I'm not sure if I can zoom in, but on the far right by the Conoco gas station is a sign that strictly prohibits trucking companies coming through on that street. But as you can see clearly, there's a Premier trailer on the back of this semi coming through our neighborhood. Now, I can't say which truck is causing the damages to our streets, but I am asking that something be done sooner rather than later. And because of this incident that we just experienced with the firefighters on earlier this morning, there should be better lighting. There should be more stop signs, speed bumps. Something should be included in this new plan for our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Carolyn Rodriguez.
Okay. All right, so this speech is not about the Chase policy specifically, but what it's about is the fact that you guys are hiding it from us. So for you, those who don't know what's going on about this Chase policy, is that we had a couple of deaths this summer. And because of those deaths, the news people, they wanted to know what the policy was. So they went to try to get the policy, and the chief of police said, you can't have it. You can't have that Chase policy, it's a secret. So they went to the Attorney General of Texas and asked for it. And the Attorney General said, yeah, that's not a secret. Y'all can have that Chase policy. Why is he trying to hide it from you? He didn't even know. Well, the chief didn't like that, so he decided that he still did not want to show the policy. So he went to this consul right here. Now this consul right here is spending money for a lawyer to try to sue the Attorney General and keep it a secret. The Chase policy is secret. Why would you spend that kind of money? I mean, how did he get y'all to change your mind? We won't know because it was in a non-transparent meeting and he asked y'all to block him, you know. But the thing is that if people, I mean, was he saying it was, if he was saying it was an officer safety issue, you know, no officers have died in these chases, only citizens. And another thing is that where was I at? Oh, you have 1,700 patrol officers that know the policy. So if a criminal really wanted to know the policy, he could find out really easy just by asking maybe one of the patrol officers who didn't know that all this stuff was going on. So we also have the policy from 2019, so it's probably pretty similar to this one. So why are y'all spending money to keep that a secret when it'd be so easy to figure it out anyways? So also this thing about transparency, trust, accountability, when you guys spent $1 million on a 97-page report to tell us that the cops are nothing but a bunch of thugs, right? And the chief stood right here and said, I'm gonna win back the trust of the community. I'm gonna make them trust me again because I'm gonna do it through trust. I'm gonna do it through transparency and accountability. That's what I'm gonna do. But we still don't know about Brandon Zapata, the one that got murdered at the mall by the cops. We don't know what happened to those officers. We don't know whose cocaine it was that they found in the South Division locker room. We don't know about any of that stuff, so there's no transparency at all still. And y'all are helping them hide this policy? You're spending our money to hide this policy. Now, there's still punks. We went out on 7th Street, Manuel and I did, and we wanted to check out all the changes that y'all spent money on 7th Street to make it more safe. Well, they put a bunch of light bulbs in, and that's about it, and added about 100 cops. So we went out there this last Sunday, or was it Saturday night? Saturday night. And Manuel walked across the street. And when he walked across the street where there was no crosswalks, no traffic lights, residential area, the officers arrested him for jaywalking. Who gets arrested for jaywalking? Manuel does. And when they got into the patrol car and sat there for a while, they figured out, we can't arrest him for jaywalking because that's just an infraction. So they conspired and they changed it into evading arrest. Manuel didn't evade. As soon as he walked across the street, they grabbed him. So where's this transparency and where's this trust and where's this accountability? I don't see none of it.
Thank you, Ms.
Shame on y'all for spending
Rodriguez.
that money
Please
on those lawyers.
call the next speaker.
The next speaker will be Abigail Christian.
My name is Abby, and today I am speaking to you full of humility and pride to be standing in solidarity with the beautiful souls of Palestine. Close your eyes and imagine it is your children dying, haunted by memories of what once was your home, now destroyed and left behind, hearing your mother's aching cries, knowing deep in your bones that this is not the first time. Now, what will you do? Will you run or fight, or will you continue to sit in silence, desensitized and reaching, clawing for any thread that allows you to justify a river so wide of blood, the color of that succulent fruit, clinging to a green rind like the rich colors of Palestine? They owe us nothing. Us, a country who denies, and yet still they open our eyes to so much more than the truth you see. You do well to learn a thing or two from them, from Palestine. Their faith is rooted like olive trees, their strength the limbs reaching for the certainty of liberation. You don't need to look closely to see how they tightly hold kindness in their fist, despite their tired hearts that are broken in pieces like the buildings and people around them. Have you heard about entire family lines killed from a single airstrike, or those who crawled out from the rubble haunted by the pleas of those who did not survive? Do you understand that having all your limbs intact, feeling the weight of a simple meal in your belly, and the warm embrace of your child is not something to take for granted? We know this is not right, so why won't you call for a ceasefire? Have you heard about Hind? Where is she? Where is that sweet child with dreams? Hind, a 6-year-old girl who was in the car with her family when they died, shot by Israeli soldiers before her eyes. We have not heard from her, about her, been able to reach her. Where are you, sweet Hind? I am sorry you are alone, sweet Hind. In their unimaginable grief, they are not afraid to cry, to wear vulnerability as clearly as a journalist's vest, courageously. 75 years of occupation and now 122 days of genocide. The wind is weighed down with their cries, their eyes collectively lifted to the sky, watching bombs fall and claim their families' lives. 30,000 martyrs, and still in their grief they will rise. Their loyalty and love for their home ensures that no matter how hard you try, their and our resistance will never die.
Thank you, Ms.
From the
Christian.
river to the sea, free Palestine.
Call the next speaker.
The next speaker is Asaya Jeffrey.
Hello, esteemed members of the Fort Worth Council. Thank you for having me back. Last month, I had the opportunity to speak in front of this council. I talked a lot about American history, and since that day, history has been made for the worse. Since I last talked to this council, our president, Mr. Joe Biden, is the first president in history to have a lawsuit filed against him for complicity in genocide. I know this may seem distant from the safe confines of the Fort Worth City Council, but it is crucial to recognize that your constituents have been fervently urging you for a ceasefire resolution for months. Each day without a call for an immediate ceasefire places you essentially on the same side as President Biden in contributing complicity in this grave matter, regardless of the eventual legal ruling. In aligning with such a stance is not favorable in the eyes of history. Since I last spoke to you, around 6,400 people in Gaza have died, half of which were children, killed by 21,600 tons of explosives, which in destructive power is the same as the atomic bomb Little Boy, which wreaked such havoc in Hiroshima. There remains an opportune moment to support a ceasefire resolution, especially given the anticipated ruling by the International Court of Justice, which is likely to label the situation as a genocide. I earnestly urge you not to align with the stance of complicity when such a verdict is delivered. Time is still on your side to actively sponsor and pass a ceasefire resolution. Should there be any need for clarification or further understanding, I extend an invitation for us to provide a better understanding of the situation. We stand ready and willing to assist you in ensuring that your decisions align with the principles of justice and compassion. This is a time when history has its eyes on you, so don't throw away your shot. Thank you for letting me speak.
The next speaker is Rachel G.
Good evening, Council. My name is Rachel, and I am a resident of District 9, and tonight I'm speaking from my heart, from my neshama, my Jewish soul, and from my Jewish values that compel me to speak up and call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, and to encourage the Council to support a ceasefire resolution. When I last spoke in November, over 10,000 Palestinians had been killed by Israel, and that number has now nearly tripled, with thousands still trapped under the rubble. I think about the chaos that ensued here in Fort Worth from the accidental explosion downtown recently, and imagine that level of fear and trauma magnified by the thousands in Gaza from explosions that took place on purpose. I know there's a question of what role the City Council in United States can play in this broader issue, but 70 cities across the country have passed resolutions calling for ceasefire. And I also only need to point to the fact that as tax-paying citizens, millions of our own US dollars go directly to fund Israeli weapons and bombs that are being used against Gazans at this very moment. So it's crucial for us as residents of America's largest cities to take a firm position against ongoing violence that is waged on Palestinians that really began long before October 7th. These issues are also impacting us directly at home, too. We've been seeing hate-motivated attacks on the rise. A young Palestinian American from Dallas was recently stabbed on Sunday in Austin, requiring surgery, and he was targeted simply for having a Palestinian flag. It is dangerous for us to ignore the kind of dehumanizing language that's being used against Palestinians. As a Jew, I also know that the kinds of rhetoric that is used against my own community stems from the same forms of hatred that motivate Islamophobia and xenophobia. Cleveland City Council's only Jewish representative, Rebecca Maurer, recently gave an impassioned speech in favor of a ceasefire resolution, saying that Jewish safety is forever intertwined with Palestinian safety, and we can only be safe together. And this is a core principle of mutual responsibility that I take from my own tradition. The Torah demands us, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, you must not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor, from Leviticus. So let's not harden our hearts and stand idly by while the blood of our neighbors and their families are shed with US-funded weapons manufactured in our own backyard here in Fort Worth. And that is why I urge us and urge this council to act. Lastly, I want to encourage every member of council to please accept any invitation to meet with members of this community tonight to hear their stories. You will find that we are rational, we are reasonable, and really what we're demanding is the preservation of life above all. We want to look back on this moment knowing we all did what we could to save even one more life, because in Jewish teaching, every life is an entire world. The humane path forward, the only way to preserve life, is to call for a permanent ceasefire now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rashia Amar.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rasha Ammar. I'm an American Palestinian from Gaza. I stand here today for my people in Gaza. My heart weighs heavy with the recent loss of 20 family members just a week ago due to this ongoing genocide. I lost 20 family members within the time span of 5 days. I don't want to scar you too deeply with the dehumanizing way they were each murdered, but I'll give you one example. My aunt and her 3 kids were first displaced from their home, the home they grew up in, the home that held so many memories, the home that was demolished in October. Due to their displacement, they had to take refuge in a tent. Just a week ago, they were shot in their tent and ran over with a bulldozer. They didn't get the chance to live a long life and grow old. They were taken from this life too soon. All the dreams they once had were ended at the piercing of a bullet. Allah yarhamhum, may God have mercy upon them. I've been dreaming of meeting my family, but that dream has been stripped of me. Even before October, Gaza has been an open-air prison. This isn't the first time Israel has taken my family from me. We can't even mourn them because there's not enough pieces of their body to bury. Children in Gaza are writing their names on their forearms to be identified when murdered. They have to grow up to the reality of this evil world too soon. They have never gotten the chance to be kids. Dear Council, I want you to take a second with me and imagine, how would you feel if your children were stripped away from you? How would you feel in a blink of an eye you lost your home and every member of your family? How would you feel to have to look for the body parts of your children or brother or sister or the body parts of your father and mother, and all you find is pieces, and that's if you find pieces? Imagine the fear of not knowing whether your child or loved one is alive, suffering under the rubble. When are the children of Gaza going to get to grow up and be kids? When will the mothers and the fathers stop fearing for the lives of their children? We are called humans. We are called human animals, yet animals have been treated better than us. Nowhere is safe in Gaza. Members of the council, please do not turn a blind eye to the blood that stains the streets of Palestine, to the cries of innocent children buried under the rubble of their homes. Please join us in a demand for an immediate ceasefire. The children of Gaza are tired of empty promises. We cannot handle any more excuses for the slaughter of our loved ones. How can we keep explaining to them that these children's lives are not worth saving? We need action. We need change. We need to end this senseless violence. I am here today as the voice for the voiceless. Let the people of Gaza that are bleeding and screaming out for help. They need help. They need our help. Let's stop ignoring their calls. Let their voices be heard. Members of the council, we need a ceasefire. We need our tax monies to stop funding this genocide. Members of the council, please join me in being a voice for the voiceless. Please help give the children of Gaza a chance at life. They deserve to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ali Dawa. Our next speaker is Libby Herdia.
Good evening. My name is Libby Heredia. I'm a resident of Council District 6, and I am here to ask that the City of Fort Worth pass a resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Palestine. As a Fort Worth resident, I see the consistent manner in which members of this council take the initiative to act when they see a need that needs to be fulfilled in the city. Whether it be the efforts that this council and mayorship have made to make menstrual products accessible in city facilities, or the work members of this council has done towards achieving education equity for all children, or the championing of justice for those who have been unjustly killed in police altercations that should never have occurred in the first place. The deep respect and commitment that this council holds for the safety, well-being, and human dignity of its constituents is readily apparent. As such, I invite you to put yourselves in the shoes of the civil servants in Gaza, who for the past 123 days have been struggling to meet the basic needs of their community as they endure near constant bombing campaigns, the destruction of vital infrastructure, and imposed famine. How can anybody care for their community without access to clean water, electricity, medical supplies, or anywhere near sufficient humanitarian aid? Over 29,000 bombs have been dropped on an area that is less than half the size of Fort Worth. 1.9 million people have been internally displaced and crammed into an area that is less than 1/7 the size of our city. Women in Gaza have been forced to use rags instead of menstrual products for months now. Schools packed with hundreds of internally displaced civilians have been bombed, and doctors in Gaza are being forced to carry out amputations on children without anesthetics, all while members of the Israeli administration engage in genocidal language and make their intent to ethnically cleanse Gaza publicly known. Young journalists like Bisan, Plestia, Motas, and Hind risk their lives to report on the brutality that their people are experiencing so that we, sitting in this room, might listen. My fellow community members and I are here because we deeply acknowledge the humanity and suffering of another civilian population. We cannot sleep, we cannot eat, we cannot laugh, we cannot celebrate, we can't even hold our loved ones without thinking of the 27,000 lives that have been lost in Gaza during this genocide, over 40% of them children. We ask this council to please not look away. Our deep sympathy and grief goes beyond political affiliation because it is also clear that party leadership on both sides of the aisle has abandoned their very hearts by failing to call for a ceasefire and end to this genocide on the national stage. But we, the people, have not. We ask you to amplify our voices and help us answer the call for help reaching us from Gaza. As members of the global community, we ask you to assert the indisputable value of human life at a time when millions of lives hang in the balance. Please pass a ceasefire resolution now. Let Gaza live and free Palestine. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Miriam Fatah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time today. My name is Miriam. I am a teacher, and I live here in Fort Worth in District 3 with my husband, who I am also speaking on behalf of. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that I watched Councilwoman Beck read the proclamation for the Jewish Federation of Fort Worth and Tarrant County. The fear and sadness in your voice was very real, and I know and understand that feeling very much, especially in the past few months. As you said in your speech, this is not just about what is happening overseas. This is about protecting the Jewish community here in Fort Worth. When I speak, I hope you understand that I am here to do the same thing today and call on you to help me protect my family, my friends, many of whom are standing behind me tonight. I am asking you to help protect us against the blatant racism and Islamophobia that has risen in the past few months and that has been used to justify violence against American Arabs and Muslims. On January 19th, an American citizen named Tawfiq Ajak was shot in the West Bank by the IDF. He was only 17 years old. He was born and raised in Louisiana. He is one of 95 children killed by the IDF in the West Bank since October. My husband's younger cousin was in the car with him. These boys were on their way to have a picnic. My husband's cousin will have to live with this trauma for the rest of his life. My husband, who is also an American, has told me stories about visiting his family in the West Bank. Him and his friends would often drive or hike somewhere to picnic. This is not unusual. This is not unlike what we do here in Texas. Yet, many Americans scoffed at the news of his death. They couldn't believe that they were on their way to do something as normal as picnic. They believed that they were guilty simply because they were Palestinian and that Tawfiq deserved to die. This could have been my husband. This could have been my brother. To think that they could be shot and killed and that their fellow Americans would justify their deaths. That is terrifying. Passing a ceasefire resolution is not just about saving innocent lives overseas. It is about protecting American Arabs and American Muslims here in Fort Worth. It is about taking a stand for justice and for peace for all. I want for my neighbors what I want for my own family. I want for your families protection against hate and bigotry. I'm only asking for you to want the same thing and to work for the same thing for my family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Taha Taha.
Assalamu alaikum. May peace and blessings be upon each and every member of the council. I want to start by saying thank you for taking the time to hear us on this very important matter. My name is Taha, and I'm an attorney working here in Fort Worth. I was born in Bidya, a city in the occupied West Bank in Palestine. I have been a resident of Tarrant County for over 2 decades now, and I'm a proud Palestinian American. Council members, as an attorney, I took an oath to uphold the laws of the Constitution and the laws of this great state. I owe a duty to my clients and my community to ensure that their rights are not infringed upon. As Americans, we pride ourselves in being the greatest nation in the world. Our roles as a nation are to safeguard the rights of the world. I'm sure you've heard of the genocide case brought by South Africa against Israel at The Hague. The International Court of Justice found that the war crimes and crimes against humanity committed by Israel indicate that a genocide being committed against the Palestinian people is plausible. A federal court judge in California urged the Biden administration to act in preventing these atrocities committed, finding that Israel's actions amount to a genocide. Since the International Court's decision, in which Israel was urged to take all efforts in protecting civilians, Israel has killed thousands of Palestinians, children, women, elderly. Since October 7th, the death toll is nearing 30,000, with an additional 67,000 injured. Entire families are being decimated. Members of the council, Palestine has been under siege and direct military occupation for the last 75 years. This did not begin on October 7th. I urge you to follow in the footsteps of Chicago, the biggest city in the United States to pass a ceasefire resolution. Let's set the stage and become an example for others to follow. Council members, when our kids ask us about this genocide in the future, let us be proud in telling them that we acted and we're on the right side of history. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Grace Rudd.
These are on?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands which many Native tribes have lived on and were pushed out of. Fort Worth tells you everything you need to know about that. I myself am representing my heritage as a descendant of a German Jew, Apache, and Mexica tribes. We survived and we made it out, and a lot did not. You've heard a lot of good stories about that tonight, though, so I'm not going to bore you. Let's talk about what you actually care about, which is money. You proved it, because only 2 of you, thank you, Charles, thank you, Alan, voted against a 2.23% increase in taxes this year. What do those taxes go towards? It's not fixing those potholes, by the way. It's not making our communities better or safer. It's not for all of these things which many of you campaigned on. Elizabeth Beck, I know what it is like to be scared. But to say that you support a state which is murdering so many is not right. And I'm ashamed to live in your district, and I'm glad I didn't vote for you. The largest military base is in Texas. What does Palestine have to do with Texas? The largest military base is in Texas. Everyone here knows what Lockheed is. Everyone here knows what Elbit is. Everyone here knows there's an Air Force base. There is nothing about what does that have to do with Texas and DFW and Fort Worth. Other states might be able to say that. We can't. We accepted federal money. Now, I mean, sure, Fort Worth on its own sends almost $12 million to Israel as is. That's a lot of money. But it's okay because the federal government last year sent Fort Worth and the state of Texas as a whole over $80 billion for defense funds. These were for contracts, weapons, training, and arming all of the people that are murdering children right now. What does Palestine have to do with Texas? What does Palestine have to do with Fort Worth? Everything. When you can drive within 2 hours to multiple weapons dealers that are federally funded, it has a lot to do with it. It is not just symbolic. And it is important that you listen to us. It is not just Jews who are experiencing increase in hate crimes. As has been stated, there have been attacks on Palestinians.
Thank you, Ms.
We
Rudd.
have to stand together.
Please call the next speaker.
The next speaker is Mohammed Farouk.
Thank you, council members. My name is Mohammed Farouki, District 5. I'm at a loss for words, honestly, having listened to very eloquently, especially the sister who lost 20 family members, and we prayed, we call a namaz janazah for her, which is a prayer in the absence of the actual deceased body for 20 members. So I don't actually know how to talk about this after her ordeal. We absolutely are very familiar with the Holocaust. After that, we said what? Never again. Well, guess what? This is Holocaust Revision 2 with souped up on, I just don't have the words to describe this. Because the Holocaust happened over months or years. This is happening every day at a time and a scale with just the sheer numbers that it's just hard to comprehend. It's just very hard to comprehend. And we have everything to do with it. What we're asking is actually, it doesn't cost a dime to Fort Worth. It's your good word to take it to the next level. Help us take it to the next level. I'm gonna share some pictures here, and this is before and after. My sources are honestly Guardian, BBC, Jazeera, and NPR. So you can see here, this is just a neighborhood. Look, if you can see here, this is before and this is after, right? And this is the University of Gaza. These two pictures are University of Gaza. This is also University of Gaza. And this is the Gaza City Center. This is from The Guardian. Can we get to the next slide, please? So the squares here are supposed to tell you exactly where the pictures match for before and after. Also the University of Gaza, and this is a neighborhood. I counted 30 buildings here. I counted 30 buildings here, right, in this area. And these were 7 stories. I counted 7 and 5 stories, and look at this obliteration here. And then, and I have dates here in the captions here, but I just can't read because it's a neighborhood that's destroyed, and they're all over from north of Gaza all the way to Rafah, and please go to the next slide. These are two mosques here. This is the Yasin Mosque, and this is, again, I had the captions here. I can't read it here, obviously. These are two mosques that are destroyed. This is a neighborhood in Gaza, and this is a house or a building that was destroyed. I can't fathom like the sheer number and the bombs that we're dropping that are made right here, not in our name, not on our watch, and not certainly to add insult to injury with our tax dollars.
Thank you, sir, and
I
thank you
appreciate
all
this.
for coming tonight. And with that, one more speaker.
Our next speaker is Muhammad Adallah. Apologize for that. And I believe you have a group who is here to give you additional time. If you signed up to give him time, could you please stand so I can count? It doesn't include folks who spoke tonight. So if you spoke, don't sit. Okay, you're good.
Mr. Abdullah.
Good evening, Mayor of Fort Worth and honorable esteemed council members. My name is Muhammad Abdullah. I'm named after the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings be upon him. I greet you with the greetings of Islam, peace and blessings be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum. I'm an African American and a Native American to this country, this great country of the United States of America. I'm a second-generation Muslim, and I tell you this because I want you to understand what this genocide, and I will call it a genocide, and I'll explain to you why, what this means to me and my people. First, I want to tell the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza that the United States citizens have not forgotten about you. We, the people of the United States of America, are not like our government necessarily. Oftentimes we don't agree. And there are millions of us who actually support your plight. There isn't a day that goes by that we don't pray for you, O people of Gaza. Not only Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists are praying for your existence in Gaza. We haven't forgotten about you because your plight isn't just a cry for help. It isn't just a cry for justice. It's an unwavering, unyielding battle for the most basic of human principles. Unalienable rights. I know that sounds familiar to you all because we're in a government building, and I'm sure the Declaration of Independence exists somewhere in this building. As I stand before you in this government federal facility, which has within it the Declaration of Independence, which specifically notes 3 unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we know those rights aren't equal for everybody, even in that declaration. You, Mr. Chris, and you, Sister Gina, and myself would have only been considered 3/5 of a human being in that declaration. So those rights aren't always equal to everybody, let's be honest. The life of a Palestinian is as important as the life of somebody from South Oak Cliff, Dallas, or as important as the life of somebody from Stop 6, or South Lake, or Westlake. Life is equal, regardless of race, religion, or ethnicity. I come to you representing the oldest community of Muslims in North Texas. I'm the Imam of Masjid al-Islam in South Dallas. And I also do a lot of work here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to tell the people of Gaza and my esteemed council members, I live in District 5. Sister Bevins, I live in your district.
Okay.
I look forward to getting to talk to you a little bit more about our issues. I want to tell you that we don't support the $300 billion that the United States government has sent to Israel since its inception. Meanwhile, there are 650,000 homeless people in this country. There are 6 million people without jobs. And what about the veterans? And I'm speaking to you from a family of veterans. My father fought for this country. My brother fought for this country. When we send them out to endlessly commit genocide against other underprivileged people, they come back without those same benefits that we give other countries who we deem qualified or necessary. 50,000 homeless veterans. Sister came up here talking about the streets in Stop 6. They got potholes so deep I could put my knee in them. Yet we sending billions and billions of dollars overseas. Why? To kill innocent people. Yes, an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In the words of Martin Luther King, because just the other day when we had the statewide rally in Austin, anti-Islamic and Islamic phobia is rising. And a young brother from our neighboring community in Arlington, his father is Brother Nizar. We're very familiar with him. He got stabbed after that rally. So an injustice to any people anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And when the alternative to a ceasefire is oppression and death, then we must continue to fight for freedom. In the words of my ancestor, Malcolm X, by any means necessary. And today's means is a ceasefire. We ask that you jump on board with this. Texas was the last state to free the slaves. Don't let it be the last state to call for a ceasefire. Get on board with this now, please. We're asking, and we've been asking for months. But when death and oppression is the result and the alternative, then that asking will turn to demands. Let's jump on board with this. We don't need to keep on sending money out to kill innocents. We have this resolution that we want you to support, which has already been adopted by the United States or the United Nations in favor of adopting a resolution to demand immediate ceasefire and immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. We as Muslims, myself first, I'm a Muslim, then an American, we as Muslims do not condone any violence against any innocent people, and we demand all hostages to be released in our name.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you.
And
I will
with
pass
that,
it to-
tonight's meeting is adjourned.